How you doing, everybody? Welcome back to Before I Forget. This is my video channel inspired by my Instagram channel, 1985 Road Dog. That Instagram is focused on my life in music as a fan and as somebody that worked in the business. This video channel is inspired by that and is just to expand on the photos, basically the story behind the photos. I've been doing a lot of LA Gun stuff lately, so I'm going to do another Motley Crue chapter because all the crew heads out there are like, more Motley. So I've only got a couple more Motley stories, but they're both really good ones. This one is 1985 Theater of Pain. They started the show, they started the tour in the Northeast. And the second show of the tour was in New Haven, Connecticut, where I have another video on this channel where we get into that New Haven story from the Shout at the Devil tour when they were opening for Ozzy. So we're back in New Haven again, which was, so 2 times I've seen Motley in New Haven, Shout at the Devil tour and now the Theater of Pain tour, and both times were just crazy. I don't know what it is about New Haven. But again, I have the Motley hookup because as a club DJ for years, I had record company connections, and my friend at Elektra Records had started hooking me up for the Motley shows back in the Shout at the Devil days. So same thing, we're going to go to New Haven. But this time, I went with, who went to New Haven? Let's see, it was myself, Bruno Ravel who would later become the founder of Danger Danger. But Bruno was a good friend of mine. We lived together for a while in Queens. So it was me and Bruno and Eddie Ojeda, the guitarist in Twisted Sister, and his bodyguard, Vic. Eddie, I had gotten acquainted with over the years. We went to some shows together. We liked to party. We hung out. So I got friendly with Eddie Ojeda in the early 80s. Into the mid 80s. I guess we were like hanging out, and we knew Motley was coming back on the new tour, and the second show of the tour was in New Haven, and I guess we agreed somehow. I can't even remember how we all got together to go to New Haven. So I said, okay, I'll drive. So I had a LeBaron convertible, a 1984 LeBaron convertible. And it was not a huge car, but we rode up there to New Haven. Me, Bruno, Eddie Ojeda, and Vic. His bodyguard, Vic, this guy Vic, was working for Twisted Sister at the time, but Vic had worked for everybody. He worked for Queen. He worked for the Stones. He's in one of those Stones live videos from like 81, like with Mick running through the crowd. Vic was a character. He told us stories about Freddie Mercury. Yeah, you would just, lose your mind. Vic worked with a lot of people, but at this point, he's working with Twisted Sister. So I just met Vic. I knew Eddie, and I just met Vic. And we're all in the car going up to New Haven. So I don't even think we had tickets or passes or anything, because I didn't get the connection from my friend at Elektra Records this time. So we're going to meet people later on in New Haven. My friend PA, Mike Schnapp, Mike Pont. There were these girls that were Sweet Pain fans, little fangirls. We called the Painettes. A bunch of them came up there because everybody was, big Motley fan. And if you weren't a big Motley fan, you liked to party. And you knew there was going to be a party at the Motley show. So we're going up to New Haven. The whole way up there, we're just bumping up. Vic is bumping, Eddie's bumping. We're all bumping. I'm driving the LeBaron. We don't have the convertible top down because it's hot. It's August. This is like August, I think the date was August 2nd, 1985. The second show of the Theater of Pain tour. So, we're driving up there. We get to New Haven. We get to the arena. We go right to the arena. And we pull up like by the backstage gate where like the trucks pull in and everything. And Vic just jumps out of the car, says, "I'll be right back." And he runs in the stage door. The next thing you know, the gate's lifting up and we're driving into the arena. We went and parked the car and went to the Motley dressing room and saw those guys, and they were, yo, dude, Tommy was all duded out again with his dude. And Nikki was Nikki. And we saw them briefly. We didn't hang out very long, but we got tickets and passes. And we got tickets and passes for a bunch of our friends that were coming later on. So we had to leave those tickets and passes somewhere for those people. So we hang out for a minute, we leave, and we got to go now to the hotel to leave this envelope for our friends that are coming up from New York. Mike Pont, Schnapp, PA. So we went to the hotel to leave the envelope and found out that was not Motley Crue's hotel. We had the wrong information. So we went to another hotel that we thought was the hotel, and that wasn't the hotel. So now our friends are coming up there. We have to leave this envelope at Motley Crue's hotel, and we can't find the hotel. We don't know which hotel it is. There's no cell phones in those days. So the first hotel was the wrong hotel. I left a note. Go to this hotel. Go to the second hotel. That was the wrong hotel. Leave another note. Go to this hotel. They went to the third hotel, and that was the right hotel. So, it's just you leaving notes all over town. It was crazy. So anyway, we go drop off the envelope. I leave my car now. We left Vic and Eddie at the arena, and we dropped off my car at the band's hotel, and we took a cab back to New Haven, cab back to the Coliseum, New Haven Coliseum. Went in the backstage, right through the street entrance into the backstage. Didn't see the band anywhere. We grabbed some beers, went out to the arena, and then in the arena, because our tickets were right next to our friends' tickets that we had dropped off at the hotel. We hook up with our friends. They were like, "What do you think? We're going from hotel to hotel to hotel with notes." They were like, "What the hell's going on?" So it was a bit nutty hooking up with them later on because there's no cell phones. So anyway, we see the show. It was much more, it's big arena rock now, much more Vegas-y. Costume changes, the songs were not as raw and punky anymore. They were more big arena rock, a lot of sing-alongs and a lot of, chanting or, let me hear you say fuck or whatever it was. It was a much more of an arena show, a little slicker because they were the headliner now and they had to fill up, hour and a half, hour and 45 minutes, however long they were on stage. So they had to stretch things out. It wasn't as dangerous. It didn't seem as dangerous. It seemed, different in that respect. Shout at the Devil, they were dangerous. Theater Pain, it wasn't so dangerous. It was more arena rock. So at this show, when they did Smoking in the Boys' Room, Cub Coda from Brownsville Station joined the band on stage and sang the song with them. Cub Coda wrote the song. He was in a band called Brownsville Station. They had a big hit with it in the 70s. Motley covered the song. So the guy that wrote it and from that band came on stage and played with them, which was cool. So the show's over. We're all about to go backstage, whatever. And Vic just, we've been snorting blow all day, and Vic takes over. He just snaps. He's like, "Listen, I'm in charge. I work for Twisted Sister, and you represent Twisted Sister because you're with me. So you do whatever I say." We're like, "Okay, Vic." Vic was an African-American guy. He wasn't super big, but he had that look in his eye like, don't fuck with me. So anyway, Vic's running the show. So we all had passes. I had to get passes for these girls, the Sweet Pain fans, the Painettes. So I had to get passes for these girls. Vic got me some passes. So while I'm waiting for Vic to come and get me these more passes, because Vic had now taken over and was in charge, while I'm waiting, the arena's emptying out. And I told the girls, I said, just go all the way up top and hide behind one of the rows, squinch down behind the seats. Nobody will see you. And I'll call you when we have passes. So these poor girls ran up there and hid because they wanted to go backstage and meet Motley Crue. So anyway, we're waiting, finally Vic comes out with these passes for the girls. And I just go, girls, they come running down. I think there was like 3 of them. Gave him passes, and Vic goes, listen, okay, I'm going to get you backstage and meet Motley Crue, but one of you is going to be my date. And I said, okay. And the girls looked at me like wide-eyed, like, and I just kind of gave him a wink like, it's okay, don't worry about it, So anyway, he gave him passes. We all went backstage. So backstage is pretty crowded, Neil Smith was there. The original Alice Cooper drummer was backstage. He lives in Connecticut, so he had come down to the show. It was cool to meet him. So anyway, everybody's gotten backstage now. All of my friends from New York. We're in the bathroom stall. Everybody's bumping up. It's just got crazy. It got really nuts. I didn't even take any pictures backstage because it was just too crazy. Because Vic had commandeered control of everything. It was just like frenzied. So eventually the backstage party starts breaking up and we head over to the hotel. So we hopped in a cab, me and Bruno, and got over there. We got to the hotel, Motley Crue Hotel, and apparently everyone had found out that that's where Motley Crue was staying, and there were like a couple hundred kids there. So it was insane how many people were there. There were cops. They wouldn't let anybody drive into the parking lot. You couldn't enter the hotel unless you had a room key. So it was really nuts. And we had parked our car there. So we get close to the hotel entrance and we see Fred Saunders, Motley's security guy. And he waves us over and he's like, guys, he goes, Nikki's in room 340 and Tommy's in room 342. Go take care of those guys. And he just sends us into the hotel and we go up the elevator. Kids are everywhere. We get in there and we go up to the room. We got off the elevator at their floor, and it was empty. So security was doing a good job downstairs. So we go to Nikki's room first. And the door's like open. In a hotel room, they have like a little bar that goes across the door. You can put outside the door so it doesn't lock, keeps it open a little bit. So we go and knock on the door, and it's like, Nikki's room. And he's like, come in. It's like the Addams Family or something. So we open the door, and it's all dark. He's got like the scarves over the lamps. It's really dark, and he's just sitting there by himself, like looking. He's in a chair, like kind of like looking at us. And we're like, oh man, it's like different. This is not the old Nikki Sixx from Shout at the Devil. It was a darker, I didn't know it at the time, but he probably started with the smack. I mean, he was just like weird. He was just like out of it. So I said, you want to do a bump, So he's like, sure. So we bumped him up. And then me and Bruno hung out for a minute. It was like very quiet. We're like, this is too weird, man. So we said, we'll see you later, man. we'll catch up with you later. And we just went next door and knocked on Tommy Lee's door. And we could hear some music playing in there. So he opens the door and he's like, dudes, music's playing. He's playing the Gap Band, the funk group. You Dropped a Bomb on Me. Tommy was into the funk. And he's like, dudes, and we go in and there's like, 3 or 4 girls hanging out. He's got Heather Locklear's picture on the nightstand next to his bed. and these chicks are hanging out. And then we start talking about the Gap Band and funk, and I was a DJ, so we were talking about the funk music and had and it was just the energy in Tommy's room was completely opposite from Nikki's. Nikki's was like the dark dungeon, and Tommy's was like party central. So we're hanging out, we're bumping, dude, da da da. I'm taking some pictures. Eventually, Vic and Eddie Ojeda show up. They come in the room, going crazy. Then the door knocks again, and it's my friend PA and Schnapp and Mike Pont, and Vic didn't want to let him in the room. No, I go, let those guys in. They've got backup supplies, They had a bottle of vodka. They had some more blow. So eventually they got in there. And it's just crazy. Music's playing. People are just drinking, blows everywhere. Tommy's talking to chicks. Then the door knocks again, and it's Nikki. Nikki Sixx comes in. I'm like, wow, he's back from the dead. Like, he even he showed up, so it must have been a good party. And I took a picture with Nikki that's on my Instagram. That's just how I remember that guy. His eyes would look right through you, man. Back then he had a lot of darkness around him. And that party just continued, man. I've got a lot of pictures from that night in that hotel room. Some of them are on my Instagram now. I'll post a few more. And, we just partied like crazy. Eventually, I don't know, everybody started drifting apart. Like, I think Vic and Eddie Ojeda ended up going home with PA and Schnapp. And I think Bruno went home with Mike Pont. Everybody, I was left there kind of like, because I was very fucked up. I was just a mess. There's no way I could drive. And I had my car, the LeBaron convertible. So, anyway, I ended up, Tommy's like, just crash here, man. So I just slept on the floor, or tried to. I don't know what time it is, man. It's got to be, near sunrise by this point. So I just laid on the floor and tried to sleep. He went to sleep. I'm like, how is this guy sleeping? He's been doing as much partying as us. Like, I couldn't, he went right to sleep. I was just like on the floor, just like, grinding my teeth. So I couldn't take it anymore. I said, look, Tommy, I'm leaving, man. I don't even know if he heard me. I just went down to the hotel parking lot and got my car and drove back to New York in the blinding sun of August, hot. I was just so not even hungover, but just a mess. And I drove home from Connecticut to New York. I don't know, what was 2.5 hours, just still fucked up. I'm not condoning these things. It's just a story of what happened then. But that was irresponsible. But I couldn't lay on that floor anymore in that hotel room. I had to get home. Very, very bad, that feeling, if you've ever felt it. Anyway, my friends, PA and Schnapp, told me the whole way home with Vic and Eddie Ojeda, Vic just kept putting his fist between they were in the back seat, and he'd put his arm up to the front seat with his fist, like, give me a bump. Just crazy, just the partying that went on that night. But that's the Motley Crue Shout at the Devil, Theater of Pain story, 1985, New Haven, Connecticut, Theater of Pain story. And then I think a week or two later, they played Madison Square Garden. After that show was the big Theater of Pain party, which there's been a lot of pictures posted of that party, from that night. That was a crazy party. That's another video coming up. I'll tell that one at some point. The after party of Theater of Pain at the Garden. But that's my latest Motley story. Like I said, I've got, one more good one. I appreciate you guys following me. Thanks for all the comments and the likes. And again, all these stories are in my book. I'm probably going to turn to self-publishing at this point, but it's going to get out there. And thank you so much. Appreciate it. Rock on.